Yeah, to add to the Liberals' misery, the Albanese government had a good day. Whether it's what it's doing or not, it's getting things done. And with a vim you didn't often see with the Turnbull and Morrison governments, to be frank. And it's now got the votes from enough independents in the Senate to pass its pro-union laws. It's got some new anti-discrimination laws up. It's in a hurry. It knows what it wants. Question is, do the Liberals? Joining me is Michael Kroger, former Victorian Liberal President, and Steve Conroy, former Labor Senator and Cabinet Minister. Let's turn to the happy face first. Steve Conroy, this year, South Australia, the Liberals lost. The federal election, the Liberals lost. Now Victoria, the Liberals lost. What do you think's wrong with the Liberals?
Well, I think they've not recognised that the ground is shifting underneath it. If you look at a recent report, it showed that the age profile of the voting population has substantially changed from the John Howard era. And even from the Abbott, Turnbull, Morrison era. You're seeing a substantial amount of millennials into the mid-30s. You're seeing baby boomers decline into the 20s. And so of that large cohort of millennials, the reports are only 1 in 5 are voting for them. They're not all voting for Labor, but they're absolutely not voting for the Liberal Party. And the issues that motivate them sometimes, might cause some of us with older and greyer hair to shake our heads. I have these regular debates with my daughter, who's just turned 16. So I think the Liberal Party are struggling. I think they're going to struggle on the climate debates going forward. Peter Dutton will have no choice but to endorse Labor's 43% target going into the next election. And that's going to cause an enormous amount of heartburn in the Liberal Party base.
Well, Michael Kroger, what do you make of that?
Well, I think it's right. But, you just go back to what Menzies said. He said the Liberal Party can't be a reactionary party. It has to be a progressive party. And what we're seeing at the minute, and have been for a number of years, is all we seem to do is respond to campaigns of the left, which have been, in many cases, running for decades. The Republic, Change the Flag, etc., The Voice, global warming, etc. I mean, we sit there going yes to that, no to that, yes to that. Well, of course, in the modern era with the expansion of media outlets, the people that create the content are winning the debate because someone has to fill that vacuum. And the left are doing it through 1,000 ways, and also on social media where they fill TikTok and the other social media platforms with anti-liberal ridicule, etc. So unless you're advocating for change in the modern era, which is hard for a Conservative Party, which basically supports the status quo because that's the society they built, unless you're urging for change, you're always going to be on the defensive. We're playing defensive in almost every election, except the 19 election when Labor ambitiously came out with a whole lot of tax changes that we could argue against. So the question is, what is the Liberal Party strongly in favour of? And I'm talking about cultural issues, not a bigger road here, a new hospital there. I mean, these transactional policies, which you have to have, but they don't tell you the core of what the political party believes in. That's all a question of prioritising government expenditure. So what are the values which underpin the Liberal Party? And that's what's been lost, because in this business, you have to fight. If you don't fight, you lose. And we've been too placid. We've been arguing that we're better managers. And that wins no votes whatsoever.
You remind me of that great line in that Conservative novel, that masterpiece, The Leopard, for things to stay as they are, everything must change. But the one thing I disagree with you on, Steve, is that you were saying, Peter Dutton's going to have to give in to the climate debate. What debate? There is no debate. That's the whole point. And to think that you can somehow reach a different, position on global warming without having spent years arguing for it beforehand is folly. You can't. I mean, that's the whole thing. The Liberals don't argue. The Greens have been arguing in this business for 20 or 30 years. The Liberals, barely nothing. So how can you win an argument?
Well, look, the Greens actually had a very poor night. I mean, you saw their clown leader announce at about 7:30 that there was the green slide was continuing. The Liberals have won one seat. And let me give you the best example. In Northcote, a seat that Kat Theophanous took from the Greens at the last, the one before election, under massive challenge. She reduced the Green primary vote by 10%. It dropped from 39 to 29%. It is possible to fight. Michael's point is absolutely right. Labor has struggled at times to decide we want to fight the Greens. Kat took them on a whole range of issues, from closing a golf course, to the multicultural issues.
Yeah, she was a bit fortunate with the choice of a Greens opponent, though, Steve. I mean, I admire the Theophilus family.
That is true. They picked Olivia Thorpe crazy.
Theo and his daughter. But the guy that the Greens were running was an Extinction Rebellion extremist, right?
Absolutely.
So let's
he
was gluing himself to a BHP factory office.
I mean, well, that's right.
So really,
Michael makes the point. What do the Liberals stand for?
Yeah, well,
now,
I might ask what the Labor Party stand for, because I might ask what the Labor Party stands for, because the Greens, the one Greens seat that they picked up was being contested by a Labor candidate who claimed falsely she was Aboriginal. So maybe that particular lurk will be on the back foot. You're not going to see a Bruce Pascoe run for election. Former Liberal Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull, he got dumped by the Liberals, of course. He has tweeted that the heart of the Liberal Party's defeat in the Victorian election on Saturday was a paradox that in this, the most small L Liberal state in Australia, the Liberal Party has been taken over by the hard right and is therefore at odds with the electorate who supports its seeks. Michael Kroger, the very last thing anybody could call the Victorian Liberals was hard right. I mean, soft left, marshmallows, look at, Me Tooists. I don't know what they are. I mean, Matthew Guy even disowned a Liberal candidate for being a member of Pentecostal Christian Church. What is Turnbull on?
You missed the best part of his tweet. He attacked me. He attacked me in that tweet.
Oh, well, let me show that tweet.
Look, badge of honour.
I'll give you the long run-up.
Malcolm.
Badge of honour, Michael.
There we are. So
there we are.
So
it attacks you for saying Daniel Andrews' huge win 4 years ago is because of Turnbull. He says wrong. It was in large part caused by Victorians resenting the right-wing coup that ended Turnbull's magnificent time as Prime Minister.
Well, he says there's a right-wing coup that got rid of him. Well, at least that's a change from Rupert Murdoch. I thought Murdoch was part of that coup that got rid of him. Look, Malcolm is a sad figure. Malcolm, in case you're watching, 45 people voted against you, 40 voted in favour of you. That means you are no longer the leader. There wasn't a right-wing coup. There wasn't a conspiracy. It was a democratic vote of the parliamentary party. You made a mess of the whole leadership by demanding that 43 colleagues of yours sign a document, in other words, a public ballot, calling for the party room to have a meeting. Normally 2 do it. So Turnbull acted in a way, Andrew, that no leader has ever done before in the history of the Liberal Party, and demanded that MPs put their name, a public statement that they were opposed to Turnbull.
Michael, you're being unfair to Malcolm. You haven't mentioned his stellar performance in the 2016 election where he almost lost to Bill Shorten.
That led to the bullying allegations, the loss of the Wagga Wagga by-election.
You're being too kind on this Turnbull bloke, Michael.
Turnbull won in 16, by the way, because of the Victorian Liberal Party. The fella couldn't win a single seat from Labor outside Victoria. We won 1 seat, which gave his government 76. So this fella doesn't put in his tweet today, thank you to the Victorian Liberal Party for saving my wretched government in 2016 from defeat. Look, he's got to accept the fact his colleagues threw him out of the leadership. He's got to stop acting like a poor man's Donald Trump, saying I was robbed, it was rigged, it was against me, it wasn't democratic. It wasn't a right-wing coup, Malcolm. Your colleagues dumped you.
Come on. To be fair, you've forgotten again, Michael. He wouldn't come out. He wouldn't come out on election night to midnight till after John Howard gave him a call and said, mate, this is how democracy works. You've got to go out there and face the cameras.
Well, the people got to...
You're being soft on Malcolm Turnbull.
Guys, much as I'm enjoying this pile-on of Malcolm Turnbull, the point that you're both making for me, even though, Steve, you were against it, is that the Liberals get nowhere when they try to be Labor light, and Malcolm Turnbull is the example of that. He is one of the reasons they lost their way for so long, Stephen.
Look, the Liberals have to decide where they're going to be and what they're going to champion and what they're going to believe in. I championed the National Broadband Network going into 2007 election. Labor championed a range of policies going into 2022. Not as big a target. You know, we made the mistake of being too ambitious in 19, paid the price for that. But Albo, as you said, he's making every day a winner. You know, he said, don't waste a day, and he is living up to that mantra.
Yeah, but I have to point out that a lot of the things he's now doing that are ideological, he did not promise before the election. So we have to put that little caveat in there. Stephen Conroy,
we promised IR reform.
The chat. Thank you so much to you both.